Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new week of energy to get into, and this month coming up right now, this month of July, this is a very transitional month, you guys. We have Uranus as, to me, what is the primary highlighted planet really throughout the course of the entire month, making a big move. Uranus is ending his 7-year transit of the sign of Taurus, entering Gemini. That's a big energetic shift. Uranus is the planet ruling sudden, unexpected change, and he's actually moving into the sign that is most associated with change. So there are some big changes pending, you guys. We are definitely at a tipping point this week. Now, as we get the week started, Monday and Tuesday, we're actually still in a little bit of the sticky energy that is kind of like a hangover from these big squares that have been present this past couple of weeks. We are having that energy a bit like reactivated, or it's just kind of still in effect as we hit Monday and Tuesday of this week. Mercury's in an opposition to Pluto. That could be bringing some tension, power struggles. We also have the moon in Virgo sort of wedged in between Mars and the South Node. That's a little bit of a maybe temperamental attitude going on. Verbal and emotional conflict could be coming up with this. And as we move into Tuesday, the moon enters Libra and opposes Neptune and Saturn in Aries and squares Jupiter in Cancer once again. And I do think really for the last time, like triggering the impact of that square that has been lingering throughout the course of this past couple of weeks. So we've clearly got a lot to talk about, you guys. Let's get into the report, put it all together, see if we can get an idea of how things might be playing out as we get our week started, and where we're going as we start moving through this first week of the month of July. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this report, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field for more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We're going to do that at the end. We have a lot of astrology to get into. We have reached the tipping point into the realms of like super weirdness. This month of July, as I was mentioning in my intro, I do think is going to be just a weird, strange, bizarre experience generally. There could be some things coming up, specifically information, announcements, technology, space, something like that, that is like something that we never would have predicted or imagined, but all of a sudden is just like happening and really changes the game somehow. This is I think a bit of a, you know, I've been saying I feel like it's a tipping point. There is like game-changing energy that is coming our way, and a lot of this is totally unprecedented. Like, this is not something we have a point of reference for in terms of maybe even like how to handle it or what it means or what it leads to. And I do think that the month that we're moving into right now is actually going to end up being one of the kind of like pinnacle points in this greater paradigm shift that's underway right now, where we're going to say like, whoa, you know, things happened in July that really got the ball rolling in that new direction, and it is kind of like concrete that some type of major shift or change in our paradigm experience has occurred or is in the process of occurring. So I feel like that's kind of the backdrop throughout the course of the month of July. So probably not a great month to get real attached to perceived outcomes of things. Probably not a great month to like set our expectations in too much of a fixed certain way. Being adaptable, going with the flow, opening to change, being receptive to perhaps the silver lining or blessings in disguise dimension of situations, events, circumstances that come into our lives, find us, or just seem to be playing out generally throughout the course of the month. This is strong Uranian energy, and I do think that Uranus is the most significant highlighted energy throughout the course of the month. That, of course, would be because from the Western tropical zodiac perspective, Uranus is concluding a 7-year transit of the sign of Taurus and entering the sign of Gemini. This, if you guys watched my new moon in Cancer cycle, I was talking about how this new moon in Cancer, that lunar cycle period of time is really defined by this Uranian energy, as that is the lunar cycle where this shift is occurring. And of course, the month of July is also aligned to that same time period. So the month of July also is likely to just be different in some way. Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus since like 2018. And so there have been changes, foundational, material, value-based, resource-based, potential-based, partnership and relationship-based changes that have been trying to work their way into our lives and experiences throughout the course of the past 7 years. If those changes haven't happened in, meaningful ways, or if things have finally arrived at a certain point where they just can't continue to proceed in some type of a way because it's functioning as a blockage to growth at this point in time, I do think that the month of July is where things get shook and loose, and whatever change has been trying to take place actually comes to fruition somehow. There is not much that's going to be predictable throughout the course of this month, and throughout the course of this first week of July, the week that we're moving through right now. I do think that really, Monday and Tuesdays, we get the week started, they are foreshadowing the energy of what's to come in alignment with this Uranian shift that's going on. Uranus leaving the sign of Taurus from the Western perspective, entering the sign of Gemini. It's like extra change, because Uranus is the planet that rules sudden and unexpected change, and Uranus is moving into the sign of Gemini, which is the most change-oriented sign of the zodiac. So, and then the first thing that Uranus is going to do, which makes this like extra groundbreaking, is hit a very powerful trine, like free flow of energy, like no limitations, nothing holding us back, from Pluto, the like utmost in powerful transformation, regeneration, purge. There's some type of major gutting of something that has been quite foundational that is tremendously going to alter the way that information is flowing and what we're thinking about and how we're perceiving things and what we're talking about, topics of conversation, also like technology and invention, and even like methods of communication. And all of that's to come, you guys. We're going to be talking about that more over this next couple of weeks, and especially most specifically and certainly in the period of time like on and or around when Uranus actually makes that shift coming up here following this first week. I think on the 7th. I think it's actually, I have to double check because I could be like a little bit off, but I think it's July 7th that Uranus changes signs. And wouldn't you know, just before that, on July 4th, Venus ruling the sign of Taurus, where Uranus is concluding his transit of the, energy he's been traversing this past 7 years, the ruler of that energy is literally like meeting him for the send-off 3 days before he changes signs. This is extra significant, of course, because Venus is ruling that energy. So we've got the ruler of the sign coming into alignment with Uranus at 29 degrees of the sign. And that is happening on July 4th, which would be Friday of this week. And on that same day, actually, Venus will then, after conjuncting Uranus, enter Gemini, this shifting, changeable, vibe shift bringing energy. And Neptune will also station retrograde, which is another like sudden shift, things heading in a different direction all of a sudden. So we've got that to look forward to. And the moon will also be squaring Pluto on Friday as well. Friday really, I do think, is the energetic high point of this week. And that Venus-Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus is likely to be, again, like kind of groundbreaking perhaps. It could be this like long time coming type of energy, like things that have been waiting to happen and maybe haven't been able to happen, or just like some very like powerful change that goes on somehow as well. But regardless, I do think it's going to be an interesting weekend, an unusual weekend. There could be this desire to change things, desire to like switch things up, or just this like extreme pull towards freedom or rebelling against something, like doing something that is radically different or just like out of like the ordinary in terms of how our personal norms generally tend to go. Your preferences and desires for things could suddenly be undergoing some type of very drastic change, and it could also have to do with other people. There could be a very like relationship, other people oriented situation that goes on unexpectedly this weekend that is really surprising or very transformative somehow. So that's where we're going as we move through the week. You're going to want to come back for the weekend report because we're really going to be talking about that energy as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when it's unfolding and occurring. However, as we do get this week started, as I said in my intro, I do think that we have finally reached the point after a couple of weeks now where this just lingering tension and intensity and hostility is finally at the point of, you know, breaking down, being dismantled somehow, simmering down, calming down. I think that things are going to begin to relax as we move Tuesday into Wednesday this week. And again, there could be sort of a shift that goes on from these like just maybe turbulent or hostile or very conflict-oriented situations and feelings and interpersonal dynamics that may have been going on out there to this perhaps growing sense of anticipation and anxiety and just this like feeling or sense that something's about to happen, something's about to change, but we don't know what it exactly is. We don't know how it's going to happen. We can't really put our finger on it, but nonetheless, there is just this feeling that we are very much on the verge of something. So the square between the planets and cardinal signs, Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries, Jupiter and the Sun in the sign of Cancer does continue to separate, to wane, to space itself out throughout the course of the week. However, as we enter the energy this week on Monday, we do still have Mercury and Pluto in an opposition. That was a feature of our Sunday energy, if you caught my report from last weekend. And the moon is still transiting the sign of Virgo in between Mars and the South Node. This is... it really still is more of this like conflict oriented, like not in a great mood, like didn't wake up on the right side of the bed, like don't test me, like verbal assaults and like conflict type of energy. So again, if you feel like Monday, you're just kind of in a funk, can't shake it off, not in a great mood, not wanting to be tested, feeling like you're just like over it for some reason, that is still just being like a bit indicated and supported by the way that the energy is coming through right now. And then as we move into the energy of Tuesday, and I'll talk more about Tuesday as we get through the report. I just kind of want to give you guys like a brief summary of Monday and Tuesday here. That's what I'm doing. But as we move into the energy of Tuesday, that square, that cardinal square is being activated, I think, probably for the last time in a way that is truly palpable as the moon enters the sign of Libra and hits the opposition to Saturn, and Neptune in the sign of Aries also then hits the square to Jupiter. Or probably there could be some things coming back up relating to maybe some of the conflicts or the tension or just the intensity that has been present while those squares were super in effect over the course of this past couple of weeks. But as the moon continues to transit, I don't, because the next cardinal sign the moon will enter after Libra is Capricorn, which actually that will be we'll have our full moon in Capricorn, but this is not going to activate the Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune square to the same extent. I don't think we'll really be feeling it by that point in time because of the distance between the planets. So this last couple days, Monday and Tuesday, is still, I think I said in my intro, like the hangover. Like we're still kind of feeling the aftershocks or the after effects a little bit of just all of that, you know, trial and tribulation that we may have been going through this past couple of weeks. But by the time we get to Wednesday, we do start leaning much more into this Uranian energy. It's also actually going to be activated by the moon on Tuesday, because when the moon enters the sign of Libra, yes, it's going to oppose the cardinal planets in Aries, Saturn, Neptune. Yes, it's going to square Jupiter and activate that, but it's also going to form a trine to Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Even though Uranus hasn't entered Gemini yet, being at that 29th degree, that is still putting Pluto and Uranus and the moon in a trine, which is another thing that is, I think, foreshadowing this Uranian transit that's coming up here. Is Uranus enters Gemini and begins to hit that air sign trine. That's going to be crazy. Like every month now moving forward for a while, I think Uranus is going to, I'm not positive because I haven't looked that far ahead right now, but I do think Uranus will probably retrograde back into Taurus. I think I read that Uranus will transit back into, or looked up that Uranus will transit back into Taurus for a period of time, maybe like this upcoming fall into the winter, and that would, by sign at least, break the trine between Pluto and Uranus, although Pluto's also retrograding, so they're still going to be in a tight like orb trine regardless of their upcoming retrogrades or Pluto's current retrograde. But once a month from now and essentially like moving forward until Uranus moves out of range of Pluto, which is going to take a while, we're going to have an air sign trine with Uranus, Pluto, and the moon in air signs. And that is telling me like literally once a month for this next, for the foreseeable future, essentially, we are going to get like some crazy like download or announcement or change, transformation, paradigm shifting oriented something. And it is just going to be this perpetual process where like literally every month there's some type of major change that happens. And yeah, so I do think we are entering what is likely to be a very, very interesting and highly transformative period of time. And it's going to be, again, in ways that sitting here right now, we can't predict, we can't anticipate, we can't like project onto. And so we're pretty much kind of like cosmically along for the ride moving through the month of July, as I do think we are being like cosmically, energetically upgraded in accordance with this incoming paradigm shift, which is hitting heavy as we do begin to move through this month. Now, this is also kind of an unusual month because the like planetary activity that's going on one hand, it's significant, but on the other hand, it's really quiet and there's not much happening. Now, we do have 4 planets changing signs this month, 4 planets stationing retrograde, big shifts underway, and we do have the Venus-Uranus conjunction, which is a big energetic event, considering this is at 29 degrees of the sign. And we also have a Mercury-Sun cazimi conjunction that comes up at the end of the month as a result of Mercury's retrograde. But other than that, it is strangely quiet again in terms of like actual transits happening, actual planetary activity. Lots of shifts, lots of changes, but also maybe like somehow not a whole bunch of activity that is actually happening. And the like kind of basic feeling I get, if I could describe it in terms of like an experience as we are heading into this first week of July, when I was preparing my notes, I just kept like getting this sensation of like approaching the end of the diving board. You know what I mean? Like getting right up there to the very end to like take that final step or make that sudden motion that just like changes the state of things entirely and can sort of bring a shock to the system. You know, when you hit that water, it's like it changed. It's a very like changes very dynamically the entire nature of our state. That's how I feel like this energy is representing on like if I were to describe it as just like a mundane experience, approaching the end of the diving board, about to take that sudden motion or movement that launches us off the end and changes the physical state of just like how things have been. That's the vibe that it's giving to me. And this could also be like trying something new or something that we've never done before. There's definitely this like innovative, novel, like lack of experience type of vibe that is coming in terms of the changes that are propelling us forward really at this point in time now. So while we do start the week in still some of this more like elevated stress, you know, power struggles, tension, we are wrapping up this period of conflict that has been present for a couple of weeks now. Probably not the like best and brightest start to the week. It is still like nitpicky, critical, harsh, maybe even like kind of brutal in terms of just like the verbal dimension of things. Bad attitudes could be going on to get the week started. A lot of back and forth power plays, drama, finding or unearthing missing pieces of data, facts, and information though. That could also be a major highlight that is coming through over this week and throughout the entire course of the month of July. That's another thing that this Uranus Pluto trine in air signs is about to do, I think, is, you know, really put some things into perspective through the revelations, the secrets revealed, what's being unearthed, what we're finding out, most specifically, what's been hidden that we are awakening to, and how it alters the ways that we're thinking about things. This is, I think, definitely one of the trending themes that's going to be coming in as we do move forward through this month. So there could be some discoveries associated with this, especially maybe having to do with knowledge, details, information that maybe also make us like backtrack or like feel like we need to redo or rethink or like reconfigure something maybe somehow. This is also to me giving vibes of kind of like cold cases being opened up or old information somehow being relevant or uncovered now, like I said, that gives some added value to something somehow or allows things to move forward in some capacity. And as we move through the month of July, this actually could increasingly be the case, again, not just because of that Uranus-Pluto trine, although that is going to be doing a lot of that type of stuff on its own, but we also have Mars building into a trine with the south node of the moon in Virgo right now. That could also be putting some type of active emphasis on like information, facts, details, context, like from the past that is somehow present and relevant and like functioning to initiate some type of change somehow that comes up. And Mercury, like I said, is also going to be stationing retrograde. Chiron's going to be stationing retrograde. Neptune and Saturn are going to be stationing retrograde in July. Like something's being corrected, revised, reinvented over the course of these coming months. Specifically, again, like these past ideas, past information being valuable somehow now and moving forward. So I don't know, but we could see like things along those lines definitely come with this. And Monday, like I've been saying, this concept of foreshadowing energy, Monday again to me with the Mercury Pluto opposition and this emphasis on the Uranian energy. Uranus about to enter Gemini, that's ruled by Mercury, and trine Pluto, that is like very much aligned to the energy of Mercury in opposition to Pluto. And then Mars in the south node in a conjunction in Virgo, that's Mercury's other sign. So the moon is with Mars in the south node. This could be activating a bit of what is to come in terms of the Mars south node in Virgo conjunction ruled by Mercury, who is opposite Pluto. That is this X-ray vision. That is this like obsessive drive to get to the root of things, figure things out, to see the gears in the machine and what's been going on under the surface, to solve problems. And then, you know, like I said, Uranus also entering the sign of Gemini, trining Pluto. That's Mercury's sign, and the aspect to Pluto again. The energy of Monday is, I think, programming the field a bit for what we have coming up as we move through the end of the first and the second week of July. And one thing is clear, you guys, there is one thing that I do feel confident in saying right now, and that is that the ways that we are thinking about things is about to change somehow, and something is about to happen that does change the game entirely. What that is, that's going to be a very hard call in this energy. There's a great likelihood that it's the absolute last thing that you ever would have expected. But big game-changing moves are coming up here, and things are not going to happen and unfold in the ways that we would expect or anticipate. Mercury opposite Pluto on Monday, as we are, wading into this energy. People could be quite forceful, quite obsessive, quite domineering with their language, with their expression of verbal energy, with the moon and Mars in the south node. Again, this is like challenging our ideas, like arguments, debates, heated discussions about things. So that energy is all present. And we do also have Venus, as I've said, as we enter Monday, move into Tuesday, she is moving closer and closer into proximity with Uranus, which is happening on the 4th on Friday. So all week, while we are getting the week started, and we do still have some of this remnants of this tension that is working its way out of the situations. Monday and Tuesday, we on the side of that do have Venus building into this conjunction with Uranus, and that is going to be stirring things up a bit. I do think could bring up these highlighted themes of sudden endings, shocking transitions, surprises, maybe just unexpected change, especially, of course, when we're talking about Venus, we're talking about the sign of Taurus. This has to do with other people, relationships, money, value, material possessions, assets, resources, finances, economies, transactions, legal matters, deals, partnerships, alliances, things to do with food production, agriculture, comfort, peace, balance, and the comfort zone, stability generally. Perhaps a little bit shaky, perhaps in a state of flux, or it literally could be us who just have no tolerance for the status quo moving into the weekend and are actively pursuing or desiring or wanting some type of change, things to be shaken out of some type of rut, to not, continue doing things maybe in the way that has always been our comfort zone or our safe place or our stability, but just feeling more suffocated than supported by it for some reason, and, really maybe being the instigators of our own change. Or we could just be finding ourselves in some very unique, unusual, or interesting scenarios having to do with other people. Or this could just be a very kind of exciting, lively, unusual, out of the ordinary social situation, or maybe some unexpected a legal result, or financial expenditure, purchase, something along those lines. So there could be something like that is mixing things up somehow as we get into the energy, especially I would say Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of this week, but it really could be kind of a theme that is unfolding as we enter the week on Monday. But things as a result of Uranus being right now at 29 degrees of the sign of Taurus are, I think, highly just kind of energetically unstable all week long, and really throughout the month of July, because Uranus is a slow moving planet. So Uranus is at this 29th degree for several days, and Uranus will also be at the 0 degree, another critical degree, the very first degree of the sign of Gemini, for a while as well. And I think, really our whole month of July, majority of our Cancer season is just this energetically unstable, highly unpredictable, kind of maybe a little bit strung out, weird, bizarre Uranian energy. Okay, so with Venus approaching throughout the course of the week, this is activating bigly, because Venus is a ruler of the energy where Uranus is located right now. This is activating this energy. So you could be feeling it. We need to slow down, stay grounded, pay attention. This energy, whenever we're dealing with strong Uranian energy, it is very impulsive, and it can be a bit reckless and accident prone. Another thing to be mindful of along those lines this week, and I mentioned this also in my new moon report if you guys saw that, we currently right now have Jupiter located at the Sabian symbol of 5 degrees of the sign of Cancer. That Sabian symbol is at a railroad crossing, and automobile is wrecked by a train. That is also the degree location where our new moon in Cancer took place. While we have this very unstable, accident prone Uranian energy at the 29th degree and 0 degree of the signs. So I was saying then, and I'm still saying now, we need to be very mindful. We need to do our best to be conscious and like in our body as we move through the week this week and next week also. It may be kind of like hard to do that because Uranus energy can sometimes like just make us it vibrates really, really fast. And a lot of times, there's like the shock factor to it, and it can be like distracting. And like I said, it's very impulsive and ungrounding. Okay. Like we can almost feel like disconnected from the physical vessel sometimes when the Uranian energy is coming in strong. So the more that we can do to like consciously, actively, strategically with Mars in the sign of Virgo, ground our energy and counter a bit of that tendency, slow down, as I said, be conscious, and take and make informed and planned out, like thought out actions. Avoid acting before we think, you know what I mean? It could just be helpful in assisting us to avoid maybe some of these train wreck scenarios that could come about if we are just too shot out of a cannon and like reckless about the way that we're conducting ourselves through this period of time. If you guys watched my past couple videos, I have been preaching that to me, it seems as though the galactic guidance, the cosmic support, the formula for success as we move through Cancer season has a lot to do with our ability to align with Mars and Virgo energy and just be very grounded, very practical, very well thought out in the execution of action pertaining to choices or decisions or conversations that need to be had, or just like the effort and the energy that we're putting into things. The more precise and the more attention to detail and the more practical we are in our approach to things right now, the more successful our outcomes are going to be. If we are just getting whipped up in that Uranian, like electric, hypercharged, like borderline, sometimes like frenzy-ish type of energy where we just feel so like whipped up and amped up and high strung, because it does vibrate so fast, it'll bring change, but maybe just in a less measured and stable and comfortable way than perhaps we could experience if we like alter our approach to identify and execute on more of that Mars and Virgo energy. So Mars and Virgo, I do think really is our template that we should do our best to align with as we continue forth throughout this period of time. But changes and shakeups, especially in relationship dynamics, especially in financial situations, or having to do with material matters or possessions, or to do with worth, value, or self-worth or value systems, change in those regards. This is what's in the forecast this week. And I think that all else being very unpredictable, this is something that seems to be one of the certainties for this period of time. Now, the moon in Virgo, it is transiting Virgo Monday into Tuesday. This is a good couple of days to get things done if you can, accomplish tasks, organize, schedule, clean. This is really, really great cleansing, cleaning, purging, purifying energy with the moon and the south node and Mars coming into a conjunction with the south node. We really should be using this energy to like actively reevaluate and reconfigure the rules that we live by and what results we're getting out of them as a result. This is a very, very good period of time to actively initiate changes in your day-to-day life and lifestyle habits that enhance and support your health and well-being, or your productivity, or your efficiency, and that generally just make your life more organized, more productive, and more healthy. This is a very good way to use this current the energy of this current transit, when so much is out of our control right now, which it truly is, especially with all this Uranian energy coming through. Again, like the Mars in Virgo is what is holding us down, and we can make huge personal gains if we do use this energy properly and make the changes that we are being called and supported to make at this point in time. And cleaning, organizing, scheduling, exercising and working out, but also in sort of like a low key, more passive, low impact type of way, like walking, stretching, yoga, like slow, more like less impact martial arts forms. All this type of stuff is really highly supported right now. Don't be surprised if you notice yourself feeling like physically, energetically drained really now and over the coming weeks. Mars in Virgo, this is already a more like low key, slow paced type of energy, being, you know, Mars in an earth sign, but also moving into the south node. The south node is like an energetic drain. And not only that, Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries, both stationing retrograde. That is, Aries is ruled by Mars. That is also, I feel like, depressing like our physical energy levels and our just kind of personal perception maybe of vigor and strength. You could find yourself feeling honestly just like weak and slow and not physically capable over this next couple weeks, next couple of months. There could also be like weird or unexplainable ailments or injuries that come up that seem to just like not have a real clear like source or cause, but are just lingering and are just there, and may actually be things that do cause us to alter our lifestyle or our day-to-day as a result of their presence in our lives. And again, like I do think that this is a good period of time to take active measures to improve our health and to improve our relationship, like to our own day-to-day life, what we're putting in and what we're getting out as a result. And I will talk, of course, more about this as this energy gets stronger and stronger over the coming weeks as Mars does build into that conjunction with the South Node. But the other side of this energy, you know, like I have been stating, it does support our ability to streamline our processes. So while things may be more slow and more physically draining, and we may not feel like just in our best shape or like our best selves over this next upcoming period of time, we can actually counter this to an extent by making our systems and our protocols and our schedules and our routines more productive, more efficient. Like that could actually be something that helps to balance some of that out. Like we might find, and maybe it's because we find ourselves like having less energy that we feel like we need to like reorganize or reorient things so that we can make them more efficient and therefore make them take less of our time or less of our energy for some reason. So it could be coming through that way as well. Tuesday, July 1st, let's talk about Tuesday in more detail now. Tension, of course, like I've stated, is still waning, but we do have that cardinal square yet again being activated. As I said earlier, I do think this is the last time that it's going to be activated in a way that is really perceivable for us, because the next time the moon hits these planets, they will be even more distant than they are now. We won't be feeling it to the same extent. But moon in Libra opposite Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries and preparing to station retrograde. This is draining. This is like borderline incoherent energy. Some of this just more out of it, dazed and confused, don't feel like doing anything, maybe very detached and disassociated type of thing, okay? This could also, with it being the moon in the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, as she is coming into conjunction with Uranus at the sign at 29 degrees of the sign of Taurus, and we're talking about the opposition between Saturn and Neptune having to do with breakdowns and things fading away, things falling away, loss and endings, and like active process of those also being in the sign of Aries. Something here could be going on having to do with relationships, or something that we have loved, or something that has loved us, or something that we have really valued, or that has provided a great sense of maybe comfort or stability somehow. It could be like on its last leg or falling apart in this energy. This is dismantling old relationships, old preferences, old images, old designs, old concepts, old comforts and old attachments that have run their course and are no longer providing either, a sense of inner peace or inner balance, or are functioning instead of, providing or supporting those things as a blockage to growth in some type of way. If you guys have been following my channel for a while, I have been saying for years now that one of the fundamental primary purposes associated with this Uranus Taurus transit is removing blockages to authentic growth, so that potential that we are awakening to in that process can be actualized, can be materialized, so that we can cultivate, develop, grow, and manifest unrealized potential within that we had been either sleeping on or unaware of for some reason, most likely as a result of the things that are leaving our lives right now, or what we're being forced to let go of. This is breaking us out of our previously conceived of molds and previously experienced templates of reality, and we are again about to start either moving in a brand new direction, doing something that we've never done before, or the world around us is just going to shift radically and bring experiences that we wouldn't have anticipated or conceptualized for ourselves. And as I've mentioned, I do think the energy of Tuesday is foreshadowing some of this. It may feel disappointing, discouraging, overwhelming, and again, we could also feel like this disconnection from reality somehow, or we could find ourselves just really not sure what is true and what is false. There could also be on Tuesday with the moon in Libra. Actually, also remember, as I said earlier, the moon in Libra is not just opposing Saturn and Neptune and Aries, it's also trining Pluto and Uranus. Uranus at 29 Taurus and Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So while this is currently an out of sign trine, it's not going to be like that for very much longer. And this energy again is sort of being we're getting a bit of the prequel to the tale that is yet to come in the energy of Tuesday. But anyways, I meant to say with that, we could also see some type of big announcements this week, especially regarding maybe financial changes, valuation changes, maybe deals, partnerships, strategic alliance type of stuff, legal, again, legal type of stuff, purchases, acquisitions, or this could also really be heavily centered on divesting and decoupling from something suddenly. It could also be the breakdown of some type of long-standing allegiance, alliance, partnership, group dynamic, coupling that's been going on, and makes perfect sense also. Venus and Uranus, that is what this energy similarly indicates, aside from the moon in the sign of Libra, opposing Saturn and Neptune, trining Pluto, trining Uranus, that we're getting in the energy of Tuesday. So this could also, I do think, as I briefly mentioned earlier, have to do with science, technology, space, travel, inventions, and innovation. And these themes, those specific themes, I do think are going to be where the energy and attention and kind of just the emphasis energetically is moving towards and gathering around as we do move forward through this next couple weeks and Uranus enters the sign of Gemini, because that has a lot to do with technology. It has a lot to do with communication, the information, the internet, and then it's going to trine Pluto in Aquarius. That is major innovation, invention, scientific advancement, that changes things dramatically, that is centered around, again, how we're relating to or perceiving information, or what we're thinking about, or how we're communicating with each other, the topics of conversation. So I do think that we've got like a lot of kind of like space age stuff that we're going to begin to find meeting us somehow in our experience as we move really from this point going forward. The moon in Libra also, as I said, does square Jupiter on Tuesday as well. It also forms a sextile to Mercury currently in the sign of Leo on Tuesday. This could be bringing some more of this dramatic verbalization of feelings type of energy that we had really strong this past weekend. Performative emotional displays that are probably pretty persuasive in nature could definitely be a theme that we are encountering as well. People probably are going to be having some big feelings on Tuesday and a lot to say about them. This could also be emphasizing more of this like sudden disclosure type of energy. Specifically, of course, it's going to again be pertaining to information being brought to light, being exposed, being discovered in ways that produces some type of transformative impact. That is really, from my perspective at least, the fundamental like energetic undercurrent in the entire month of July. Is something that we are either discovering or finding out. It may pertain to the past, but regardless, it is really changing the way that we are thinking about things, the way that we're communicating, what we're talking about, maybe even like the flow of information or how we're doing things. Again, there could be some type of like innovation or technology or inventions or something that like are presented during this period of time that like really change things significantly somehow too. So that's where we're at, you guys. Monday moving into Tuesday. As I've said a whole bunch of times, Friday I think is the highlight of the week. That is when we have all this activity happening. We do have Venus hitting Uranus at that 29 degrees. Venus then right after that enters the sign of Gemini, vibe shift coming through. Neptune stations retrograde, vibe shift coming through. And then we also are going to be having the moon in Scorpio squaring Pluto, like exactly while all that's going on. And this will also be a black moon weekend because the moon in Scorpio, of course, will be activating the black moon currently transiting through the sign of Scorpio. So that's a lot of activity for one day. Friday's probably going to be a busy day. It could be a very, as you know, I have stated, change inducing, not normal type of day as well. And obviously, I will be back to talk all about that in more detail as we move through the week, and that is what is pending for us as we do get this week started with what probably feels like more of this just like slow, low vibe energy. So we have a slow start to the week. Things could still be a bit tense, but definitely as we move Tuesday into Wednesday and then through the rest of the week, either excitement or anticipation or just a lot going on is probably going to like distract us and pull us more into that energy than whatever it is that we maybe been struggling up until this point of time. I do think that we are at the edge again, like of this cosmic diving board, about to take some type of plunge that really like alters the way that we are feeling about things or just changes the state of everything somehow. And another thing that I feel like is noteworthy, as we get our week started, the sun is at 10 degrees with sign of Cancer. That is the Sabian symbol, a large diamond in the first stages of the cutting process. Super good descriptive, I do think, of this energy that we're moving through right now, this process of cultivating, exposing, and uncovering true authentic value. Like, it couldn't be more like quintessential essence of Venus's or Uranus's transit through the sign of Taurus, literally this fixed earth sign. And we're talking about a diamond, fixed earth, right? Created under this insane pressure deep within the earth, under circumstances that are unchanging, fixed, stagnant for long periods of time until some force comes through someday that unearths that takes, like, radically changes and alters its environment, and then begins to peel back the layers that exposes the true value that's been created there. So pressure makes diamonds, you guys, and there could be something of tremendous and authentic worth or value that is in the process of being uncovered or exposed to us right now. I do think it's important to seek true value in our experiences throughout the course of the week as well. And that, as I was also saying earlier, that Venus-Uranus conjunction that is pending could be sort of orienting us in that direction, just causing this like insatiable desire almost for something to be different, something to be authentic, something to be real, something to be true, something to be liberating, something to be like creating change in a way that makes us feel more alive somehow, or more aligned with our potential, or re-stimulated, brings us back to life maybe. I don't know, but that seems to be how things are orienting themselves as we move through our week. So that's what I have to say today, you guys, about our astrology. We've got a tarot reading to get into as well. Interesting, the way that our tarot message came out today. Very brief tarot message. We didn't get a whole bunch of cards, but what we did get, you know, for some of you may be very relevant out there. We only got one card come out of the deck, and it was the Nine of Cups, which is the like wish fulfillment card. So there could be something like the large diamond in the first stages of the cutting process. Like there could be something aligned with something that we're wishing for, or something that we're hoping for, or something that we feel would bring some sense of true or authentic fulfillment. That could be a part of how we're feeling with this being cup energy throughout the course of the weekend. But like interestingly, on the back of the deck, we have the King of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. So this is bringing up that concept to me that I was saying earlier of like disengaging or divesting or decoupling from something. I don't know, like it seems kind of like a contradictory message, but there could be something about like a sense of wish fulfillment, or aligning with something of greater fulfillment, or fulfilling some desire or something like that, that is associated actually with being released from some commitment, some investment, something that we were working on or towards. Because we're talking about the Knight of Pentacles, that's like our slow and steady progress towards our goal. And then we're also talking about the King of Pentacles. That is like our commitments and our duties and our responsibilities and our obligations. It's our abundance and our stability and our power and our success. But this could also be, again, like it's making me think sort of like this vacation type of vibe, or like the desire to be unencumbered or to get away, duty, obligation, responsibility, like not wanting to be about it, not wanting to participate in it. This could also be like tradition and convention and the structures and the forms and the foundations that have maybe provided some type of stability or success or power to us somehow in the past, but we just like aren't feeling compelled to continue to go and grow in that direction. Like we don't want to put energy into anymore. Like we're not building maybe in that same direction. And that is what the real desire is. But it also, I mean, we're talking about the sign of Taurus, Uranus, Venus, the King of Pentacles. There could be some upheaval or some reversals that are taking place, also having to do with like financial or material or like economic, even value currency based type of stuff going on. But if that is the case, you know, this is saying that it's so funny because literally, and I'm like interrupting myself right now because I've got like another thunderstorm rolling in. And it's funny because this thunderstorm has been like making its way in throughout the course of this entire video. It has been a scorching heat wave here for the like past week or more. And we have not had any rain. We have not had any weather. It's been like blazing sunshine every day. And like I haven't recorded in 4 days because right now I'm doing 3 days on recording and then 4 days off recording. And I'm heading into my recording binge right now. I'm doing my first recording of the 3 days. And literally, as soon as I was finally ready and sitting here in front of my iPad and like about to hit record on this video, it started it started thundering and it started looking like a storm was coming in, and it's like still thundering right now. And again, I'm just like chuckling at that and bringing it to, I guess, your attention as well, because the whole theme of this video is having to do with Uranus. Uranus is the lightning planet. Uranus has a tendency of bringing like strong thunderstorms and stuff like that. So there could also be, over this next month, there could be some unusually, like, I don't know, significant storms that happen, or things to do with just like powerful storms, lightning strikes, stuff along those lines. Mother Nature is once again reminding me as I'm recording a Uranian video that there's some powerful forces going on out there, and the thunder, right? As I was like saying, like the foreshadowing of what is to come is palpable in the energetic atmosphere for me right now as I'm recording this video. So anyways, if you hear the rumbling in the background, it's not truckloads of, I don't know, like concrete or whatever today. It is like this just thunder that has been going on throughout. It's not raining yet. It's just this thunder that's been going on literally throughout the course of the entire video, on and off. So back to the tarot reading though, there could be, I don't know, some type of daydream or fantasy or wish fulfillment, or going after some desire that requires us to maybe just like break away from something, tradition, convention, the way that things are typically done, or decommit ourselves maybe from something that we've been involved in, or that has been representing some type of stability or security or power source for a long period of time. So that's what I have to say for our tarot reading today, you guys. That's what I have to say for our astrology today. We are now going to get a synchronicity card, and I'm going to ask for one final piece of guidance or advice from God's Spirit Universe. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind as we enter our week? And our card for today, you guys, says focus. Thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Isaiah 26:3. Focus your thoughts on God and on that part of you that is God. Tune in on God and his serenity over your life. When you can still your mind and think of God and be at peace in your mind, everything around you will fall into a peaceful routine in your home, in your business, and in all aspects of your life. Stay in this state of mind and you will prosper beyond your wildest dreams. This to me is immediately making me think of that Mars and Virgo energy, which seems to be our clear like tool, guide, roadmap to success as we move through this period of time. And this synchronicity message, focus, reinforcing that, focus your thoughts on God and the part of you that is God. Tune in on God and his serenity over your life. When you can still your mind, slow it down, stay grounded, right? And think of God and be at peace in your mind, everything else around you will fall into a peaceful routine in your home life, your business, and all aspects of life. Stay in this state of mind and you will prosper beyond our wildest dreams. Virgo is also a sign ruled by Mercury, which has to do with our mind, how we use our mental energy, how we use our strategic energy, or our physical energy, and our ability to execute, focus, right? Planning, strategy, and like keep ourselves grounded. I do think the way that the new moon chart was set up, at least, is a facilitator of exactly what this card says, prospering beyond your wildest dreams, this success, expansion, and growth that has been indicated to be sort of on the backside of a lot of this struggle, strife, trial, tribulation that perhaps we've been going throughout the course of this past couple of weeks, or, you know, even past couple of years, as Uranus has been transiting the sign of Taurus. So that's what I have to say today, guys. That is my message for you guys from the stars, message from the cards. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys, share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, let me know what's going on with you out there. Please let me know if you are having experiences that line up with and resonate with what I'm talking about in these videos. Drop me a comment, tell me how this energy is affecting you. That is very valuable information to me. Thank you guys so much for being here. I truly appreciate your presence and your contributions to my channel. Love you guys so much. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, as I always say, I have a link in my description box below to a Facebook group where I post pictures of these boards if you want to see the same thing, or if you want to see the whole thing. That's where you can find it. Just click that link in my description. It'll take you over there. And come back with me on Wednesday, you guys. We are moving through this week that is pushing us off that diving board and preparing to make some type of splash. And Wednesday is just moving us further along in this process. Venus building into the conjunction with Uranus, and these planets about to change direction, change signs. We got a lot coming our way. You don't want to miss the next one, you guys. I will be back to talk all about what comes up next, and you should be here too. So I will see you next time. Have a beautiful introduction to your week, beautiful introduction to your month of July, and until next time, guys, bye.